Welcome to Business Voice, a program of the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce. Each month, we'll feature business and community leaders sharing their stories, initiatives, concerns, and passions. Learn practical information regarding community resources and opportunities. Now, the host of Business Voice, Greece Regional Chamber President and CEO, Sarah Lentini.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Business Voice, a program of the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce sponsored by Bartolomeo and Perotto Funeral Home. I'm Sarah Lentini, your host, and also the President and CEO of the Greece Regional Chamber. We have a really terrific group of guests with us today, starting with my first guest, Gene Welch of Tully Rinky. Welcome, Gene.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you on the show, Gene. You know, you're so enmeshed in everything with the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce. Of course, you sit on our board of directors. You're an officer of the board on the executive committee. You serve on the board of the Greece Chamber Charitable Foundation as well. And obviously, I think I conned you into doing your second round here of board service because you had been a board chair many moons ago, long before me. So thank you. You know, for all that, we've never had you on the show. So I'm really delighted that you're here. And as folks might have figured out from the introduction, you're an attorney, correct? You're a partner at a law firm?
That's right. I'm the litigation practice chair for Tully Rinky for all of New York State's lawyers. I supervise all the litigating lawyers in New York State for our law firm, which has offices all over the state of New York. But one of the things that I'd like to talk about today, if we can, is the new marijuana law, which could have some minefields in it for our employers, members, and people who listen to this radio show, and employees both. So that's why I wanted to be on the radio show today. It's a brand new law, signed into law by the governor on March 31st. Portions of it are in effect right now. People have to worry about how they're going to handle marijuana possession and use in the employment context. So that's one of the things I hope we could talk about today.
Oh, yeah. Well, it couldn't be more timely. Talk about the latest news. And, of course, this is an enormous change for the state of New York. Begs some questions, which I hope you'll answer for us, like, so what does that mean if the federal law, which isn't quite there with the state law, what if those two laws are, in conflict? What does that mean for us? And why don't we just start by, could you unpack this a little bit for us? What has happened, and what is the law that's just been signed by the governor of the state of New York?
As of March 31st, it is legal in New York State for you to possess up to 3 ounces of marijuana or consume or use 3 ounces of marijuana. That seems pretty simple. But as you know, most employers have been worried about doing marijuana testing before they hire somebody or testing employees on the job to make sure that they're not using marijuana or other controlled substances. And this new law does not prohibit that, but it does have some minefields in it. So, for example, the new law protects marijuana possession and use if you do it off the premises of your employer and you do not use any of your employer's equipment or facilities to use the marijuana. But the thing that people have to be concerned about is if you show up under the influence of marijuana and your employer can articulate some symptoms that make it impossible for you to do your job or make it dangerous for you to do your job, then the employer can take some disciplinary actions against you. However, if you're using the marijuana off of the job, but the employer knows about it, he cannot discriminate against you for the recreational use of that marijuana. What a lot of people don't realize is in New York State, there's a New York State labor law which protects employees from discipline by an employer for their off-employment activities.
Oh, that's
so
good to
your
know.
Political activities, your use of consumables. So if you like to go home at night and have a cocktail, and that you're off the job and you're not on call, you can do that, and the employer can't discipline you for that. So this new marijuana law, although there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts yet about how it's all going to shake out, it is legal now to possess 3 ounces of marijuana and to use it, but it would be illegal for an employer to discipline an employee for their off-the-job use of that marijuana. And that, to me, is kind of a minefield. I think that any employer right now who's doing pre-employment drug testing or drug testing for any of their employees ought to talk with their lawyer and make sure that they're not stepping into something, because the new law also creates what is known as a private right of action. An employee who's discriminated against by an employer for using legal marijuana now has a cause of action and can sue the employer for damages or like the loss of their job, for example, as long as they weren't using it on the job. But remember, you cannot show up to work under the influence if it impairs your ability to do the job.
Right. Well, which makes sense.
To me, that's kind of an important message that we need to get out to not only the Chamber's membership, both employees and employers, but to your listeners in general on this radio program.
Yeah, absolutely. And you must have read my mind, because that was going to be my question. So it's one thing, and it certainly makes sense, that you shouldn't show up to work impaired, right? Whether it's by virtue of taking marijuana or drinking, for that matter, or doing some other kind of a drug. You need to be sober in the full sense of that word and be able to work. But I was wondering about drug testing, because marijuana, I'm assuming that all these drugs stay in your system for a while. So that doesn't mean that you showed up to work impaired. It could mean that you recreationally used, as you're allowed to do. So you're saying people that do drug testing probably need to do a little conference with their attorney. Yes, which sounds like great advice.
Yeah, because they have a balancing act. There's another caveat in this whole thing. So if an employer does contract work for the federal government, and the federal government has a contract provision that says you have to do the drug testing or you're going to lose the contract, well, then it's okay for the employer to do their drug testing to make sure that they're in compliance with the contract, which says nobody can be a marijuana user or a controlled substance user or what have you.
Wow.
So we do have some employers in Rochester that have federal contracts. And those federal contracts may very well prohibit the use of marijuana, even off the job. Right. And so people can test for that. And the other thing an employer has to worry about is an employer is obligated to provide a safe workplace for the employees. And so a safe workplace means a workplace where the employees are not going to be endangered by somebody operating a forklift or some other dangerous piece of equipment under the influence of either marijuana or alcohol.
Right. Is there an intrinsic difference between them, by the way? I mean, does marijuana not have a beginning and an end that's very finite in terms of its influence on the user? Or is it is it possible that you could end up with some sort of residual impact from smoking marijuana?
Yes. I am not a forensic chemist or a forensic doctor, but I was a federal prosecutor, and yes, there are lingering effects of both alcohol and marijuana.
Okay.
And it'd be one thing for you to sit out in the parking lot and smoke a portion of your 3 ounces of cannabis, and then come in and work. And it's another thing for you to have gone to a party last Saturday night and smoked marijuana that was legal now,
right.
And it's gone through your system. And traces are still going to be there, but you may not be under the influence. You may not be impaired. You may be able to do your job safely. And those are all judgment calls that are going to have to be made. And supervisors are going to have to be trained as to how to watch out for people. I mean, you know what your employee's performance is like today, and if it's different tomorrow, they're either sick or they're under the influence.
Right.
And either way, if they're so sick they can't do the job, or they're driving the forklift truck, there's a danger, then they need to be at least sent home or given a different, safer job until the sickness passes or the influence of the controlled substance passes.
Yeah, of course. So, Gene, you I brought up earlier, and then you actually kind of touched on this just a few minutes ago, and I want to get back to it because to me it's a major question. How is it? I guess I don't really understand, and I'm hoping that you do, how the states and the federal government interact. At the end of the day, if the state law and the federal law are not the same, especially with something as concrete, kind of black and white, if you will, as whether marijuana use is legal, marijuana possession is legal, then what do we do? Because we're kind of functioning right now, as I read it, as if the state law rules.
Well, in fact, the state law is going to rule until and unless there's a prosecutorial discretion change in the federal prosecutor's office. The Attorney General of the United States has changed the prosecutorial policy of the United States, basically, even though the Congress hasn't changed the law. Marijuana use and possession and sale is still illegal under federal law. But as a matter of prosecutorial discretion, the federal prosecutors have chosen not to enforce that law.
Oh.
And now it's going to be even more of a problem because the state of New York, the New York State Legislature, the governor of the state, have recognized the recreational use of marijuana, up to 3 ounces of marijuana you can possess and you can use. And so it would be much more difficult for
a federal prosecutor.
The federal prosecutors to enforce that law, since so many people are now going to be permitted to do it under New York state law. Under New York state law, by the way, you cannot sell your 3 ounces of marijuana. The sale of marijuana is still going to be illegal even under this new law. But the new law creates a whole system, which is not going to be up and running for another 2 years probably, where you have to be a licensed marijuana distributor, and the licensed marijuana distributor, can sell the 3 ounces of marijuana. But marijuana is available in our neighboring states, and so people may very well be bringing that marijuana into New York State for recreational use, and they're going to be allowed to do that as long as it doesn't exceed the 3 ounces maximum. And you have to be over 21. That's another thing I should have mentioned right up to at the top of this interview.
I think that's good.
You have to be over 21 in order to possess this marijuana.
Yeah. It's amazing. I've been around long enough, as you know, that I grew up in an era where it would have been unthinkable for marijuana to be legal. So this is, for me, a big sea change. Certainly, it's also being touted as an enormous economic development potential, right, for the state of New York. I mean, ultimately, that's who's guiding this ship, not just in terms of the law, but also the industry.
Well, the New York State Legislature, when it was deliberating this law, had a lot of evidence presented to the legislature that properly organized, this could mean lots and lots of jobs for lots of people. And this marijuana sale is going to be taxed. 9% goes to the state, and another 4% will go to the county and the city. And the tax money will be used in part to help previously economically disadvantaged groups, and previously economically disadvantaged groups will have a priority when the licenses are handed out to sell the marijuana. And all those decisions are going to be made by the Cannabis Management Board, which will be populated by a gubernatorial appointment, a state senate appointment, and a New York State Assembly appointment. And they will make up all the rules as to who is going to be able to sell this cannabis. And, of course, the state will make its 9% tax, and the county and the city will make its 4% tax on the sale of each one of these cannabis products. Just
a real quick question. When you say the city and the county are going to make are they each going to make a 4% tax, or are they splitting a 4% tax?
4% will be taxed from municipalities, and I believe they're going to have to decide how they're going to share that.
I see.
That 4%, the total of 4%. The other thing that's interesting is the city can opt out and decide they don't want to have licensed marijuana sales in the city, but still get their share of the 4% sales tax.
That's interesting.
So,
that's sort of the best of both worlds.
Compromises made when this was passed.
Right. So just going back to a couple of things, because I want to make sure we do this before we let you go. One is, especially for businesses, that they may want to revisit their drug testing policy, their drug policies in general, to make sure that they're understanding some of the nuances of the potential pitfalls, that this might represent if they continue with business as usual. So obviously there are law firms and lawyers all over the place. Hopefully most businesses already have an attorney or a law firm that they engage. But are there lawyers that specialize in this area? I mean, in some ways it's brand new, but in some ways maybe not so. What kind of a legal assistance should somebody be seeking?
There are lawyers who specialize in the industry of cannabis and setting it up and the balancing act between the state law and the federal government. But any lawyer who does employment law will have to know what this law is in practice in the workplace.
Right.
There's nothing in this law. In fact, that like the third line in this 128-page statute says there's nothing intended in this to prohibit an employer from regulating the use or possession of cannabis on the job.
Okay. Got it.
They should speak with their employment lawyer and get some advice before they step into something accidentally.
That's great. And I think that's what I was looking for, Gene. So really you're looking for an employment lawyer, a lawyer who specializes in labor law, employment law. That's probably going to be your best bet. And obviously Tully Rinke is pretty big. You mentioned at the beginning that Tully Rinke, the law firm that you work for, that you're a partner for, is New York statewide and beyond. You have even an international office, if my memory serves. So you guys have employment law. In case somebody does not have a law firm and they wanted to reach out to you or your firm, how would they get in touch with you?
Well, I can certainly pick up the telephone and dial 585-899-1458, 585-899-1458, and that will ring on my desk, and I'll pick it up. And if I can't answer the questions, I will hook you up with one of our labor lawyers who goes to court on these things regularly, although many times I go to court on them as well. So,
yeah, because you oversee litigation for the state, yes.
Yes,
well,
that's right.
That's terrific. Gene, I mean, my gosh, there you have it, folks. A direct dial to Gene Welch, who is not just an attorney but also a partner at Tully Rinke PLLC, one of the major law firms in New York State. And Gene, we thank you so much for coming in and talking to us a little bit about this, because it is really literally breaking news and kind of difficult to understand how we move forward from here. We'd love to have you back to give us an update as things progress. I know there's a conversation at the federal level about making marijuana legal, nationwide, so that should be interesting to see how that plays out. And we know that there are many, many other things that you guys do at Tully Rinke. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing just a little bit of your wisdom. And by the way, folks, if for some reason you didn't write that number down, you can always go to greasechamber.org and you can find Tully Rinke and law firms through our member directory at greasechamber.org, or you can always reach out to me as well. So thank you so much, Gene, for joining us, and do come back very soon.
Thanks for having me.
You're very, very welcome. All right, don't go away. We're going to be right back with my next guest. Don't flip that dial.
The loss of a loved one can be an overwhelming time of hectic activity and high emotion. Remembering and celebrating the lives of those who have passed is important and fulfilling. A meaningful farewell, focusing on their life story, can help with healing. Some families turn to the clergy at their church to capture the essence of a person's life. However, those who may not be connected with the church may worry there is no one to fulfill this important role. At Bartolomeo and Perotto, we believe that a life remembered lives on. One of our trained funeral celebrants can help you thoughtfully design and organize your loved one's treasured memories and ensure that the story of their life is not forgotten. Discover how you can create a meaningful farewell. Visit Bartolomeo.com or call us today at 585-720-6000.
Safeguarding your freedoms and your future. The WYSL stations.
Welcome back. You're listening to Business Voice, a program of the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce sponsored by Bartolomeo and Perotto Funeral Home. I'm Sarah Lentini, your host and also the president and CEO of the Greece Chamber. And I've got a wonderful guest who's joining me, Sherry Now, who is the owner and executive director of Gavia Life Care Center. Welcome, Sherry.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Sarah.
Oh, it's delightful to have you on the show, and especially delightful because you're a brand new business. You're a seasoned professional, so this isn't a brand new business in that sense to you, but a brand new business and business model that you've just started, right? Right in Greece on Long Pond Road. Tell us about it.
It is.
so I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have a doctorate degree in counseling and education and have worked in the mental health field for, oh dear, I think do I want to say 30 years, Sarah? Maybe I shouldn't.
20-some,
20-something years, right. So what I decided is that there really is a need for a full, comprehensive outpatient mental health center. And so that's what we've opened, as you said, here in Greece. And so the benefits of having a outpatient mental health center is we have a full complement of services. So besides only having, not only, but having a therapist, we also have a nurse. So, to address medical complications and medical issues. And then even more critical, we have a psychiatric nurse practitioner, which means we have access to medication if that's appropriate. So obviously not everyone would need medication, but for people who need or where medication would help in kind of moving their treatment forward, we have access quickly, which is challenging right now in the city of Rochester to find mental health providers who can provide medication, within a week's time.
Which, of course, is critical. I mean, that's when you need it, you need it. You don't want to be waiting for weeks. So
exactly.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit. I mean, are you seeing people of all ages? Are you seeing people from all over the county and the region? How do people get referred to you?
Okay. Yep. So I purposely I chose Greece because Greece, as you know, has, I think it's 95,000 people now.
Yeah, a little over 96,000 was the last.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's there's one very small mental health center here. So
wow.
It really felt like Greece was a very underserved community.
I'll say.
So that was one of the reasons I chose Greece. Is I think that there's a huge need, and then of course not only Greece but the rest of the West Side here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have Brockport and Spencerport and Gates. So that's why we chose this area. We're serving right now adults. We will be serving adolescents soon. Like everything with the state, you have to get approvals for everything you do. So our opening approval was adults, and now we're going to be working towards children, at least adolescents. It's really easy to find us or refer to us. We have a website, which is www.davialifecarecenter.com. We have a Facebook page. You can walk in, and we actually have walk-in hours. You can walk in and say, is anyone free? I want to meet with someone. Or you can just walk in and schedule an appointment.
Oh, that's great. That's pretty accessible. My goodness. Yeah.
We try to be. Well, it's kind of what you said, Sarah, that when making a phone call to ask for help is really, really hard.
Yeah.
Again, I used to say that picking up the phone was heavy, but of course now we all have cell phones. But making that phone call is not easy. So once someone does that, we want to be accessible. It's hard enough to call them. Right. Certainly want to be able to get people in.
Right. Well, absolutely. I completely agree with you. But you know what? That accessibility is rare. So again, congratulations to you for putting together a model that is, that's interesting, but more importantly, is really customer centered. Now, when you say that folks are coming to you and they're adults, are many of them individual adults? Are there families? Maybe the families you wouldn't be able to see kids, but you'd be able to see couples? Is there any kind of a niche? Are you more of generalists, or what kinds of issues are you? Sometimes, I know sometimes therapists will sort of specialize in, some issues that might be particularly challenging and interesting, actually, for clinicians.
Right. And we've been open only 5 weeks. So
congratulations.
We're very new.
Yeah.
Our specialty, right now, mostly what we're seeing is, anxiety, depression, grief, and loss. So it's just, the consequences from COVID are huge.
Wow.
There's been, I hear oftentimes in the news, the second pandemic is going to be mental illness. And you're right. Like, even as we begin to slowly work our way out of this, I think that the consequences as people, just the anxiety, it's not over. And again, the losses people have experienced, I think that's all going to start to weigh in. So that's been a huge piece of what we've seen. individuals and couples, and we can absolutely treat families if the adult is in the room. So we're able to. So families with children we can work with and treat. That's absolutely doable. It's just not able to meet with children alone or individually because of the way the regulations work. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine that the COVID-19 pandemic has created some not just intense mental health issues, but unique ones. We've probably never had to deal with this level of, combination of loss without, closure, without the ability in many instances to even see one's loved one when they're passing away, isolation. Just the basic surrealness of what's been going on for the last year. I imagine that you indeed are seeing quite a lot of people, and that could include once you're really seeing children. I imagine that's not going to be a small part of the issue with kids either.
It will not be.
Yeah.
Right, but our society is built around kind of support when we lose someone, and then all of a sudden that support isn't there, and the grieving process gets delayed. Mm-hmm. The grieving process gets prolonged. And people are kind of wondering, it's, quote, normally, 6 months later I'm starting to feel a little bit better and I don't feel any better. Well, that's because that 6 months still feels like 2 weeks.
Right. So one of the reasons that we were so excited about having you on is not only because we get to talk about a new business, an important new business in the greater Rochester region, but also because, we're coming up on, next month, is it? That May is Mental Health Month, Mental Health Awareness Month?
Yes, May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
And so, what a good time to be talking about mental health, but also you and another member of ours who's going to be on the show today as well, Dr. Alex Eckert, you guys have come up with, is it a 3-part webinar series?
It is. It is a 3-part webinar series. And that's exactly what we're doing. So Dr. Eckert is, he and I have kind of connected as a chiropractor. He so understands how the body holds on to stress, how the body expresses stress, how stress, the interplay between the body and anxiety and stress and loss is profound. So we really thought that together we could kind of offer some opportunities for people to think about, to learn about that and explore. So we've created a series of workshops, presentations, kind of beginning with, why my depression doesn't look like your depression, because sometimes people say, well, that doesn't sound like depression. Well, sometimes it manifests itself different in different people. We have a second one focused on how the body, exactly what I just said, how the body, how the interplay between the body and anxiety. Mm-hmm. And then the last one was just kind of a fun topic was what we can learn about managing stress from our cats, and why cats don't have stress. So, and I think for me it was more, obviously I was watching my cat as I came up with that title, thinking, how is it that we as human beings sometimes hold on to things and worry and have angst, and there truly is something about being able to be more present to the moment and to learn to cope, to manage.
Yep.
And cope with our stress.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine you're jealous because I'm a little jealous, right? Just looking at I've had cats in the past. Right now, we have a puppy, a dog. She's not really a puppy; she just acts like one. But she certainly has moments of stress, but she seems to be able to move on, and she's more comfortable in her own skin than perhaps I ever will be. So I'm very jealous of that. So I'm actually looking forward to all three, but that one in particular. So you guys are going to be doing this in May, and I know you were kind enough to say that we could make it available to Greece Regional Chamber members, but of course we're making it available more broadly as well. So if you're listening, you can go to greecechamber.org. And you can sign up for these workshops. They're virtual workshops, virtual presentations, and you'll be getting the benefit of 2 fantastic, clinicians, practitioners who are together, you cover the mind-body connection, and you're actually making the mind-body connection very clear to all of us. So I'm very excited. Thank you.
We're happy to be able to offer that to, like you said, not only to the Grease members, but to everybody, because it's important.
It is important. I especially, I think the whole notion of stress and how the body hangs on to stress, is fascinating. I do think, that sometimes people don't realize that their own reaction to things could indeed make them ill. And that's not, it's not a new concept, of course, but an important one to remind people of, especially right now when we are feeling stress in some new ways and also in some hidden ways. We may not even realize what is potentially making us tense because the landscape around us is so very different, so very frightening and. And as I said earlier, surreal. I can't think of a better word than that. Many times during this past year, I've kind of said to myself, I feel like I'm living through some kind of a sci-fi movie. I don't understand what happened. It's like I woke up one day and the world was changed. And so I actually think this is a wonderful service that you're doing, and you're both very, very knowledgeable and also super nice. So I don't know. I think we were, looking at dates, but they were all in May, right, Sherry?
They are in May, yes.
All in May, and it's a great opportunity to just take a break and do something that's for you as well as possibly for your business and your employees. Because the more that we all understand the mind-body connection and what might be going on with the folks that we interact with day to day, probably the better we're going to be able to do our job and respond to people, especially if maybe they're a little bit out of sorts one day, or going through something that needs a little extra, patience. So I actually think it's a great service to the general population as well as the business community.
Well, I think we kind of develop patterns and habits, and that generally kind of gets us through. And then you're right, we get hit by something kind of out of the right wing we didn't expect, like COVID, and some of the coping skills we've been using maybe aren't working as well as they used to, or maybe we forgot because we hadn't needed to use them. So this is an opportunity to kind of re-examine kind of those skills and think about what you've done in the past that maybe you hadn't been using, or maybe you learn a few new tips.
No, that sounds great. Now, before I let you go, I want you to say the name of your business again. Yep. And it's Gavia, right? Gavia. Gavia, right. G-A-V as in Victor, I-A, and then Life Care Center. Am I saying it correctly?
Correct.
So
you are.
Okay, great. And is the web address GaviaLifeCareCenter.com?
It is.
Oh, wow. That's great. Thank you, Sherry. It's nice and simple, and it matches. It's wonderful. So GaviaLifeCareCenter.com. Of course, you guys are a Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce members, so you can always go to greecechamber.org. We're an org, not a com, but greecechamber.org would also be a way to find you. But GaviaLifeCareCenter.com, Gavia, G-A-V-I-A. And Gavia has a meaning, doesn't it?
It does, thank you. Gavia is the Latin word for loon, and I happen to absolutely love loons. Their sound, and if anyone's listened to them in the evenings, it's just beautiful. But the loon is one of the birds that dives the deepest and holds its breath the longest. Oh. And I think that for both therapy and for life, that sometimes it requires we take a deep dive and hold our breath. So that's why I picked that.
That's lovely. It's poetic. It's not only apt, but it's also very, very poetic. All right, Sherry Now, Gavia Life Care Center. Thank you so much for joining us here today on Business Voice.
Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate the opportunity. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. All right, don't go away, because we're going to be right back with my next guest, Dr. Alex Eckert.
WYSL Avon Rochester.
Since 1983, Herko Computers is Rochester's first and most experienced custom computer system builder. Herko Computers is proud to be working with many of our original customers, including the Greece Chamber of Commerce. Whether you need a custom business PC, gaming system, or network server, Herko Computers can build you a custom computer system that exceeds your expectations. Herko Computers also offers complete IT support for your business. We can configure your business network, provide security from viruses and ransomware to keep your business or medical office running the way it should be. Herko Computers is also a full-service provider of network wiring, Wi-Fi, and network camera systems. Need to upgrade from Windows 7? Give Herko Computers a call at 227-1270 to discuss your options to get your business upgraded to Windows 10. Herko Computers is proudly locally owned and operated since 1983. Call us at 227-1270 and schedule your Herko Computers free IT evaluation. Herko Computers, 227-1270.
Care. It's more than a word. It's the heart of our mission and purpose for more than 25 years. Today, we serve 2.3 million members, partnering with top-quality providers and caring for communities across New York State. This is Fidelis Care. If you need health insurance or if your coverage is changing, Fidelis Care can help. Call 1-888-FIDELIS, TTY 711, or visit fideliscare.org.
The one media outlet you can count on. The voice of liberty. The WYSL stations.
Welcome back. You're listening to Business Voice, a program of the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce, sponsored by Bartolomeo and Perotto Funeral Home. I'm Sarah Lentini, your host, and also the president and CEO of the Greece Regional Chamber. And I'm delighted to welcome my next guest, Dr. Alex Eckert of Performance Health Clinics, and specifically he runs the Rochester office. Welcome, Dr. Eckert.
All right, thanks so much, Sarah.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. So, Performance Health Clinics, can we start there? Because you guys have multiple satellites, multiple offices across more than one state, correct?
Yeah, Rochester is the newest office, but we have two in New Jersey, one in Westchester, and we got some coming up in Maine and Florida, so we're covering the East Coast.
Wow, that's great. Those are all great places to visit, too.
I know, and I chose Rochester. What the heck?
That's great, yeah. Well, and are you from Rochester? You told me that you...
I am, yep, exactly. I'm from Greece.
Even better.
Yep.
Not that we're biased
right.
at the Greece Regional Chamber or anything, but yeah, that's even better. Lovely. And your office is in Greece, right? The new office, where is it located?
That's right, yeah. So I'm right at the border of Greece in Gates.
Perfect.
Right in the Canal Landing Business Park there.
Oh, that's a great spot. Right.
I know.
Very, very nice. Are you in a new building, or are you in an existing building?
So, yeah, I believe it's an existing building. But we have we got the park right there, so it's a great spot.
That's wonderful. And how long have you been open?
We are all of 2 months old.
That's great. Yeah, you and Sherry, I think, are vying for, right? Because
I know. Yeah, right. We're both on our infancy. That's for sure.
Yeah, you're both doing wonderful things, and you're both relatively new and new in the community. So we're excited, and new in the Chamber's membership, which we also are excited about. So, tell us. So, what does your company do? I mean, what is the thrust of it?
Absolutely, yeah. So we're mainly a chiropractic office, but we have a specialty in anywhere from sports injuries, and we do well with co-managing people with all different sorts of mental health stresses, and we're really a community-based practice. So anything that comes into the office, we are more or less ready to get you treated or get you sent into the right direction.
And it sounds as though there's chiropractic medicine, correct?
That's correct,
And then is there also some physical therapy involved? I mean, by definition, is that part of the universe?
No, yeah, that's a great point, because kind of what makes our office a little different is we have a little bit longer of a typical visit. So normally, like the industry standard for a chiropractic visit is around 15 minutes, but with all the research mounting that's showing that a hands-on approach is really what's best for the patient. We got to do the soft tissue stretches. We got to do a whole lot of massage techniques, and we also have to get people exercising. So all of those combined, it's hard to do that in 15 minutes. So we really try to spend as much time as we can with the individual.
That's great. And do people come to you, just because they want to be healthy? Do people come to you because, obviously, if they've got an injury, because you mentioned that already, but do people come to you because maybe they're not so healthy, and is this part of a way to deal with an illness, maybe even a serious illness?
Yeah, absolutely. So we treat a lot of different kinds of injuries. But in addition to any sort of, neuromuscular sort of condition, with the bones, joints, or muscles, anything like that, we also do very well in treating, the nervous system for different, let's say you got like a numbness in your foot or something like that. You have pain shooting down your legs, so they have to figure out what's causing that and get that to go away. But we also have a nutrition approach as well. Oh. So I actually started the nutrition program over there in Jersey, and I'm still operating it over here just through Zoom.
Oh, that's great. Nutrition is so important. I don't think people realize how much what you put in your mouth impacts your health. It's Absolutely. Unbelievable. Yeah. I know there's the old adage, you are what you eat. Oh, my gosh, is it true, right?
I know, yeah. We got to break that cycle of inflammation so we can make room for the body to heal.
Yeah, and it's got to come at us in a whole new way that gets us to pay attention, because some of these are Absolutely. Old messages, but some of it is now some new science that's really underscoring how important it is to feed your body in certain ways. So good for you for doing a nutritional component. That's awesome.
It's important.
Yeah, it is. So when we were talking with Sherry now of Gavia Life Care Center, we touched on the fact that you and she, and I'm by the way incredibly proud of the fact that I introduced the two of you, that you and she are now doing a 3-part webinar series, right? Coming up for May, which I understand is it Mental Health Awareness Month? Am I saying it right?
That's right, yeah. So we're in these 3 miniseries, we're going to cover, depression, we're going to cover anxiety, and just the chronic stresses of all these sort of, the mental health stresses we have going on nowadays. Mm-hmm. With quarantine, we are uniquely challenged right now to kind of day in, day out and deal with these new things that we weren't used to before. Mm-hmm. What, of course, Sherry is very well trained at managing the mental health component, but there's also a physical health component. So when the body is constantly under attack with all these sorts of stresses, it's like jumping into extremely cold water. Your shoulders start to raise up just because your whole body starts to tense up and all your muscles get activated. And it's very similar to how the body responds to anxiety, because it's that fight or flight, but it's a chronic stress. So these chronic stresses will translate to headaches. So, they can be these chronic strains, and it just starts to wear on the body. Mm.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. It sounds like it's something that we need to be aware of. And beyond that, the two of you can actually offer some resources for addressing the sorts of stresses and both mental and physical that people are undergoing due to COVID and other things, because there are always stressful things in life, and they didn't go away either. So that sounds lovely. I understand there are of the 3. I was hearing from Sherry that one of them has to do with learning from cats.
Yeah. So more or less how cats respond to stress. I've never seen a particularly stressed out cat, and Sherry definitely has a very good approach on that. Yeah.
No cats coming to the clinic?
No, not too many. Just a couple.
Yeah, and they never seem like their muscles are tense. They always look like they're pretty. You're right. They look like they're pretty relaxed. Yeah. Their muscles look very fluid, and I imagine we could learn a thing or two from cats. That sounds great. Exactly. But I love that you're taking something that is, of course, in some ways, ancient, which is the mind-body connection, but something that we tend not to focus on, especially in Western civilization, and putting a spotlight on it and saying, folks, this thing is a continuum. The mind and the body are connected. It's not just an accident that the two of us came together to offer these workshops. It's because we recognize how interrelated the two are, and how interrelated, therefore, the clinical practices that we both offer are and can be. And the public should make themselves avail themselves of all that great wisdom. Perhaps also of your practice. So we're going to be doing 3 in May, and I know that you were kind enough to say that we could offer it to Greece Regional Chamber members, and I think we're offering it beyond the membership. So we're hoping that if you're out there listening, that you go to greecechamber.org. That's just one place that you can go, but go to greecechamber.org and sign up for these virtual presentations of these webinars that are going to be held by Dr. Alex Eckert and also Sherry Now. So we're putting together performance health clinics of the Rochester office specifically and Gavia Life Care Center, so that you can, really get some advice, some expertise, a little bit of guidance in how to deal with the stresses of both the mind and the body, which of course we're all dealing with right now. So, Dr. Eckert, what is going on with your office? Can people come and see you? Tell us how people can get in touch with you and how they might be able to make an appointment, or is that something that that you're holding on to for a little while longer? I know you're still getting the office set up.
We're currently accepting new patients. The best way to contact us is you can go right to our website at phclinics.com, and then you'll be able to find our Rochester office location, and you can actually schedule right from that website.
Perfect.
Or you can even call the phone number right at the top of the site.
Wonderful. And that's P as in Peter, or I should say P as in performance, right?
That's right.
H as in health, and then clinics, plural, phclinics.com.
That's correct.
Beautiful. Dr. Alex Eckert, PH Clinics, Rochester office, thank you so much for joining us here today on Business Voice.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. All right, don't go away. We're going to be right back with my next guest.
The loss of a loved one can be an overwhelming time of hectic activity and high emotion. Remembering and celebrating the lives of those who have passed is important and fulfilling. A meaningful farewell, focusing on their life story, can help with healing. Some families turn to the clergy at their church to capture the essence of a person's life. However, those who may not be connected with the church may worry there is no one to fulfill this important role. At Bartolomeo in Perotto, we believe that a life remembered lives on. One of our trained funeral celebrants can help you thoughtfully design and organize your loved one's treasured memories and ensure that the story of their life is not forgotten. Discover how you can create a meaningful farewell. Visit Bartolomeo.com or call us today at 585-720-6000.
Alexa, play WYSL. And hear the WYSL stations worldwide. WYSL1040.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Business Voice, a program of the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce, sponsored by Bartolomeo and Perotto Funeral Home. I'm Sarah Lentini, your host and also the president and CEO of the Greece Regional Chamber, and I'm delighted to welcome my next guest, Bill Herloski, marketing consultant. Welcome, Bill.
Hello, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So, Bill, tell us about your marketing business, the name, the focus, because marketing is such a big universe. It always has been, but it's especially big and nuanced these days.
I'm actually, my business is Winning Business and Marketing Systems. And in a nutshell, if you want my elevator pitch,
yes.
It is I help businesses implement digital technology automations to optimize their time, increase profits, and more importantly, build a segmented database they can leverage to drive sales.
Oh, that sounds great. All of those things sound great. And, of course, maximize revenue is going to really perk some ears up. But all of those things are intertwined, and they do lead to success, don't they? So what kinds of businesses do you work with, and how'd you get into this work?
So right now I have a couple. I have some business coaches. I have a couple diners that I've worked with. And then just a couple. Right now, there's no specific niche that I'm working with.
Mm-hmm. So any kind of business could approach you for assistance, correct?
Oh, 100%.
Lovely. And you've got a following and sort of a client base that spans both the central and the western New York regions, right?
That's correct, because I was originally born and raised in Syracuse, and recently moved out here to Rochester about this August will be 2 years.
And you love it, right?
I absolutely love it.
I know. It's a great, isn't it a great, I love Rochester. I love the Rochester region. And, I originally came most directly from downstate and just was blown away. I had no idea. And, of course, that was quite a long time ago. And now I'm, pretty much close to a native as I can be without really being a native. But it's terrific, and Syracuse is very nice as well. But Rochester is very, very special. So welcome to Rochester, and it's so nice that you've started a business here and that you're part of the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce as well. So talk to us about how you're helping businesses maximize their revenue, create databases that maybe they didn't have before, basically have the kind of impact I think all of us want to have in the business community.
It was kind of funny how I got into the business. I'll talk fast to keep it quick, but when the pandemic hit, I lost my business 100%. I was in the corporate events business. I've been a photographer for 25 years, and most of my clients were all of the colleges and large corporations that held their big parties and events, and I did the photography and all that stuff for them.
Great job, and you're right. Terrible time to be in that business. Great job, though. Yes.
Yeah. So I hate the word, but I had to pivot. So I figured I'd take my hobby and my second talents, which was the digital automations and marketing, and I started diving into chambers of commerce and just helping people. One of the first ones was a restaurant in Albany that came across my path, and helped them with growing their brand through Facebook Live, building their database digitally. He was never, ever wanted to do a Facebook Live, was never on one. He now has what's called the Alexi's Diner Show. He goes live daily now.
That's great. Oh, my gosh, what a great story that is. And that's translated into more visibility and more customers, more revenue for him?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's made a huge difference out there. It's been a win-win for everyone involved.
That's wonderful. So are there any other clients of yours that have their own shows? Or is that
not their own shows yet? I mean, Alexi, he's your ideal client. I mean, for someone who works in advertising or marketing, does agency work, you recommend something to him, and he implements it.
Oh, wow.
He does it. He's like your dream client.
He really is.
So he's a diamond in the rough, but he just really went with it, and it's working out great for him.
That's terrific. So you can help people set up all kinds of, maybe take advantage of social media tools, because it's about more than just doing a post or two on your Facebook page, right?
Yeah, it really comes down to your foundation is networking for your business to grow your business. So, I mean, my core services are, they start off at the basics, digital business cards, leading into smart networking and nurturing. I do touchless tap and QR systems. I do segmented database creation where we're tagging everybody involved that comes through their world, depending on where they're coming from, so we know whether they're male, female, kids, no kids. And if I'm dealing with a restaurant, what food do they like? When do they go out to eat? All of that information gets tagged to that customer, because most people think, hey, I have an email list, I have a text, mobile phone list, I have a database, and it's not a database, that's a list.
Oh, what an interesting point.
Is when you have those things where they're actually tagged, and you're speaking to them, directly and with value.
And when you can sort by those categories, when you've really got relevant categories that flagged, identified, and sortable, right?
Correct.
Yeah, because
100%.
Now you've got something very powerful.
Yep, very much so. So now you're not just throwing, if you want to, do a program, you're not just throwing paint at a wall and blasting all of your list.
Right.
If it's something specific, you're sending that out to people who have raised their hand and contacted you about this particular service.
Right. Yeah, I imagine there are many of us. I'm thinking about even us, right? I imagine there are many of us that have essentially lists that we're calling databases. And we might even have databases. There might be, some element of what we all have that are databases, but have they been revisited? Are we collecting? Are we making note of all the information that actually passes through our hands? And are we using it to create sorting categories that can really kind of really leverage that information for us? So that's to me a great service. That's something that you're helping businesses with then.
Yes. And just like what you said, how often are they revisiting the list? I'm going to give any business that is listening to this, if you have a list, especially if it's 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and you have not reached in and leveraged that list, boy, are you missing out. One of the first things that I'll do with a customer that comes in is we'll do what's called a database reactivation. We will upload that list and we'll do a quick blast on an offer. The return on that is enormous. People, they're blown away, especially on these big lists. If you have the bigger your list, the better. It's a numbers game. We all know that. And the bigger your list, the more people that you can leverage to put your word out, the better. And just people are not doing it properly. Businesses are not doing it properly into the level of that they need to.
And it sounds like it doesn't have to cost a fortune. It doesn't have to be that you're reinventing the wheel from scratch. It sounds like, certainly this aspect of the services that you provide is about taking a look at what you have and maximizing it.
Exactly, and it's not expensive at all. I mean, I do consulting and training with people just in different groups and just point them in the directions. I do trainings where they can come in and they're going to learn something that they can implement on their own. They don't have to hire me. I'm of the mindset, like when I do my trainings, everyone's like, "Oh, great! It's going to, he's going to tease, and it's going to be a sales pitch at the end. I'm not going to be able to implement anything that he does unless I buy his crap." And that's not the case with me. I'm deliver value before my hand is out. If you become a customer after that, great. But no matter what, I delivered, I pointed you in the right direction and delivered you value first before I put my hand out. That's
terrific. Bill, before I let you go, if somebody's interested in learning more about you and your business, how do they reach you?
I have an upcoming training on smart networking that I'm working on right now. It'll be done in the next week or two. They can reach me through two links, getwms.com, which is GETWMSasInSam.com, or they can reach me directly at billherloski.com. BILLHERLOSSAM,
Got it.
And in there, they will be able to get notified of my upcoming trainings and, reach out to me if they, want to have a free consult. And there hasn't been one person that's walked away from a connection with me without learning something that they didn't know.
Fantastic. Bill Herloski, Get Winning Marketing Systems?
Winning Business and Marketing Systems.
Get Winning Business and Marketing Systems. Bill Herloski, HERLOSKI. Thank you so much for coming and joining us here today on Business Voice.
Sarah, thank you so much for the honor of having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have you back so you can tell us more success stories. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All righty. That just about wraps it up for us here today on Business Voice, a program of the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce sponsored by Bartolomeo and Perotto Funeral Home. I have been your host, and I am delighted and honored. I'm Sarah Lentini, and I'm also the president and CEO of the Greece Regional Chamber. Please do tune in again to the Greece Chamber's Business Voice program next month. And in the interim, please go to our website, www.greecechamber.org. That's greecechamber.org. Be well.
You've been listening to Business Voice. The Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce serves businesses, nonprofits, and individuals throughout the region, focusing on promoting economic and community development and serving as the voice for business. The Chamber offers networking, education, advocacy, community events, and business services. It serves as an important platform for business leaders and citizens to come together in support of common goals.